Hello, everybody, and welcome back into another edition of the Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. We're into hockey mode now. Preseason is pretty much over for most teams or over, and we're getting into NHL season starting. Prospects starting to play on teams, making the roster. It's going to be fun to see them. I'm joined in by, of course, I'm your host, Matthew Zator. I keep forgetting to say who I am at the beginning of shows, but if you don't know already, I am Matthew Zator, and joined in by my co-host Peter Baracchini and Devin Little. Guys, how's it going on this? Next week, NHL regular season is starting.
Yeah, it's going great, but if you see me wandering away, there's this thing called the MLB playoffs, and the Jays are in a heck of a game right now, and so obviously, we need to talk about hockey, but it's hard not to talk about playoffs when it's baseball. So
Yeah. It goes hand in hand, especially at this time of year. We got October baseball, playoffs, all that. If you love baseball, you can love two sports at the same time. So, and I do. I love watching baseball as well. But this is a hockey show. So, Devin, how's it going on the week the NHL regular season's will be starting?
Yeah, hallelujah, right? Super excited for the regular season to actually start. And the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs are playing. I believe it's definitely Detroit's last preseason game. I imagine it's Toronto's as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I got a 1-1 game going on right over here as well. So we're in hockey mode. We got playoff baseball. We got the final preseason game of the preseason going. So good time. Good eventful Saturday.
Yes, that's right. Well, we're going to finish off a series we started a few weeks ago, and we're into our last division. We're into the Central Division, and back to the Western Conference. This division has quite a few good, teams in it. Lots of good prospects, some interesting ones to talk about. But we're also going to do another quick fire round of questions as well. And I am back in the driver's seat, so I'll be asking the questions. So that's going to be fun to do. But let's before we get started, of course, this episode's being brought to you by the Morning Skate. A great newsletter that's now coming Monday to Friday. We're back to, the regular season starting. So we got Morning Skate every day except the weekend, Monday to Friday. Lots of great stuff in that newsletter. If you haven't signed up already, get on it. Sign up below. There's the description below, click the link, enter your email address, and you'll get it every morning. So wake up, get your coffee, and take a look at that newsletter. All right, well, let's get into this division, and we're going to start with Devin this time. I always start with Peter, but let's start with the Colorado Avalanche. Like we've mentioned, this team doesn't have a lot of high-end prospects, but they do have some interesting ones in their depth. So Devin, give us one from the Colorado Avalanche we should be watching out for this season.
Yeah, if you're a Colorado Avalanche fan, the good thing is that your best young talent is on the team. So even though we don't have like a deep prospect pool, your team's gonna be good for a while because most of your best players are in their early 20s, and that's where you want them to be. The player I'm gonna highlight is Finnish forward Sampo Ranta. 2018 draftee, has been in their system for a while now. And this is a player who has gotten a taste of NHL action. His first taste was actually during the 2021 playoffs. He got 2 games in there with the Avalanche after coming over after his junior year at the University of Minnesota. And I think that shows that they were really high on him, I guess, a year and a half now, a year and a half ago, to the point where they let him play a couple playoff games with them. That was a team that had Stanley Cup aspirations. So you don't plug people in if you don't think they're going to help you, if you have those kind of aspirations. And then the following season, this past season, he had another 10 games in the NHL. Didn't do much of anything. No points to speak for. He's a -4. And I think that, and then even in the AHL with the Colorado Eagles, he only had 14 points in 38 games. So this is a player who arrived in the pro game with some promise. Like I said, the Avalanche put him in their playoff roster. And then since then, he's kind of lost his way a little bit. I don't know if it's just the adjustment to life in North America and just the overall game. I know specifically life in the AHL can be a little bit tough on some players. And he just hasn't kind of been able to perform at a consistently high level. This isn't, he's still 22 years old, still plenty of time for him to, reach his potential and become something for Colorado. But like I started with, this team is filled with young talent, but in order to stay at the top of the mountain like they are, they need to have guys come up and be able to fill depth roles because Cale McCarr is making 9.5. McKinnon just signed that big deal. Landeskog's making his money, so their cap space is going to be reliant on guys like Ranta coming up and performing well on cheap contracts. So he's, like I said, he's got time to realize that potential, but I think you're looking for him to have a real good year this year with the Colorado Eagles to sort of reestablish himself as someone the Avalanche are excited about.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these prospects that come over from Europe have to adjust to the smaller ice as well. So, that could be a part of it, maybe. But yeah, interesting prospect to keep an eye on. He's, like I said, he's had a bit of NHL experience. We'll see if he can get some more this year. With the team that's so stacked offensively, they have a lot of good players. Like you said, they're going to need some of these guys to start doing it because a lot of their roster is going to be a lot of money tied up in them. So they're going to need some guys to kind of do it on entry-level contracts, low-end contracts, or they're going to be in trouble pretty quickly. So we'll have to keep an eye on him in the coming season and the seasons to come too. All right, Peter, let's go to the Minnesota Wild, and it's another team. Lots of good young players that are playing. Matt Boldy, Marco Rossi, but we're not going to talk about those guys. Who do you have tabbed as a guy that we should keep an eye on this season?
Yeah, it's their 19th pick in the 2022 draft in Liam Ogren. Obviously, I was a very, very big fan of Ogren, and I think they got a steal of him just inside the top 20s. And, for a playoff team to have the kind of depth that the Wild have, it's absolutely phenomenal to see what they got. I mean, you got a number one netminder, Wallstedt, some great defense on defense, including Brock Faber that they acquired. And that Kevin Fiala deal. So that was a big addition on their end. But overall, I just love Ogren's compete level, his energy. He has like some of the best smarts and awareness, or not smarts and awareness, but the best compete level and work ethic out of everyone in that draft. I mean, you see him, he's relentless whenever he's on the forecheck. Great shooter, excellent passer. And again, his motor just doesn't quit. And, he's back and reunited with his teammates in Noah Ostlund, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, and Kalle Adelius. They've had a lot of great experience at the Swedish, level, Djurgårdens J20, and now they're in the Hockey Allsvenskan league together once again. So they got great chemistry, and to play alongside them, it's just going to be great for his development at the senior level. Already 2 assists in 6 games this season. Obviously, they got off to a quick head start before everybody else, but he's not looking out of place at all. He's got great. Again, I just love the way that he thinks and processes the game. The way that he reads the play in the offensive zone. It's just amazing at what he's able to do. He's just very dynamic. He doesn't excel in one aspect, but he's very complete in many aspects of the game. And I think that's what drew the Minnesota Wild and hopefully other teams to his play, because he's just absolutely fantastic. And again, the Wild got a really great prospect in him.
Yeah, they did really good at the draft for a team that made the playoffs, and they got some good prospects in that first round. Liam Ogren was a guy that I really liked in that trio of forwards that were drafted. So Lekkerimäki, of course, went to the Canucks, and playing with Ogren. He's gone with a little bit of a slow start, but starting to score. He got a goal the other day. So, it's going to be fun to watch Ogren, develop over there as well, and eventually come over into North America and see those 3 in the NHL one day, because it's going to be, and Ostlund in Buffalo too. So lots of good prospects coming out from Djurgården, that's for sure. All right, Devin, let's go to the St. Louis Blues again. This is not a team that's made the playoffs a lot in the past few years, so they're not getting high-end prospects, but they do have some, again, in the system that we could be looking forward to. So who do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to turn my attention to the crease for this one. St. Louis Blues are, obviously increased their guys. Jordan Binnington just signed Thomas Greiss as his backup. And let me tell you something about Thomas Greiss. He is getting up there in age, and so he's definitely not a long-term solution. And while they had Ville Husso, he's now a Detroit Red Wing. So I think this is a team that as long as they're going to ride out Jordan Binnington, I think they would like to not have to rely on free agency to, complete their goaltending tandem every couple of years.
Yeah.
So a guy like Joe Hofer, if he could come up and become something for this team, I think that's an ideal situation for them. And there's some legitimacy to the idea that he could become something for the St. Louis Blues. This past season in the AHL with the Springfield Thunderbirds, didn't have like a crazy season, finished 18-14-8, 0.905 save percentage and 2.96 goals against average. So, fine, not anything like crazy. But then in the playoffs, he really took his game to another level, finished with a 2.56 goals against average and a 0.934 save percentage. That's leaps and bounds above what he did in the regular season. And so if he can ride that momentum, going into this season, in the AHL, build some more confidence, continue to develop his game, he could be someone who ends up knocking on the door of the NHL here pretty soon, maybe starting to battle for the backup role behind Jordan Binnington. And like I said, that'd be a good way for them to continue to kind of retool their roster. I think the Blues have done a really good job pretty much in their entire existence as a franchise of retooling instead of having to go through like a full-blown rebuild. Just as guys like Vladimir Tarasenko start to get older, you have guys like Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas emerge and become top-tier forwards, and that's what good teams do. They kind of keep churning along good players. And Hofer could be another one. Like I said, if he can continue to build on the success he had in the playoffs this past season in the AHL, I think he's definitely going to be a goaltender to look out for. And maybe he'll put his name on the map as one of those top 10 goaltending prospects here. Next time we talk about this.
Yeah, like you said, the goaltending does need to. Binnington's not getting any younger, so they're going to have a plan in place with Greiss isn't, again, same thing. So they're going to have someone having to come up soon to try to fill that in. So we'll see if Hofer can be the guy, or there's going to be another guy that'll just come and surprise like Binnington did. No one expected him to become that, right? So we'll just have to see. All right, Peter, this is an exciting team, the Dallas Stars. I mean, they've got plenty of prospects coming up. A few of them we're gonna see pretty soon, maybe even this year coming too. So who do you have for the Dallas Stars?
I want to give an honorable mention to Christian Kyrou, because this is a player that shot up the draft board like in the second half of last season, and he's already a point per game player right now. So keep an eye on him. Obviously, he needs to work on his defensive game, but he's a very crafty and very skilled offensive defenseman. So obviously, that's his game. Don't try and change what he is, because he's absolutely phenomenal at what he does. But I'm going to go the direction of what Devin did with the St. Louis Blues, as someone that could potentially get to that point, and pick Ty Dellandrea. I mean, it just seems like only it's interesting to see how he progressed, because he started off really great, took a bit of a dive, and then he sort of just kind of fall out because of, the Wyatt Johnsons, the Maverick Borks, the Thomas Harley's coming up and surpassing him. Then he kind of seemed to have fallen off with that. And, drafted 13th overall in 2018, he just hasn't quite lived up to that potential top 6 two-way centerman. But now we're starting to see him come around and maybe take that next step forward. And he's only 22. He's still young. He's still kind of like one of those players that, like, he had a lot of promise, just had a bit of a lull. And now we're starting to see what we're going to see with him in the near future, because he's starting to reach that potential. And he's got that, again, kind of like Liam Ogren, the excellent work ethic, great sound two-way game. And he's been getting to improve each season in the AHL. I mean, last season he had 50 points in 68 games with the Texas Stars. Hopefully at some point the Dallas Stars are going to need some players to try and step up and come in and make a difference in that middle six. And I think Ty Dellandrea still has that potential to be that second or third line energy type of player with the smarts that can play in any situation. So keep an eye out for him, because I think he's still very underrated at this point.
Yeah, he's a guy that actually, when he said his name, I'm like, I know him, but I haven't really talked about him for a
Exactly.
while.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a guy to keep an eye on for sure, because like the Stars have a deep prospect pool with a lot of elite
They do.
guys, but
Mhm.
he could potentially be one of those anyway. So we'll have to watch him for sure. All right, Devin, Nashville Predators. This is a team that they added a couple really good prospects in this past draft, and one of them is really surprising. Sent to the AHL, Brad Lambert. So who do you have for the Nashville Predators?
And for the Nashville Predators, I'm looking at not their top pick from this season, but their top pick from last year, 2021, Fyodor Svechkov. And Fyodor Svechkov is currently playing over in Russia. He's got 8 games under his belt at the in the KHL. No points, but he's continuing to do what he does, right? He's a really, even going back to his draft year or his draft season, I guess, he's a player who has a really mature game. He plays a 200-foot game. Is a player who loves to play with the puck and make things happen. All over the ice. And that's the type of player that drives play. That's the type of player that you can build a line around. Obviously, like I said, he's still over there in Russia. You want to see him, just look good playing against men over there in the KHL. And, that's a really, really, really good league over there. So if he can put up good numbers and really show for himself, you got to be just really excited as a Nashville Predators fan, because this is another one of those teams where they kind of have a sneaky good prospect pool. Like it's not overflowing or anything with like top tier guys, but there's enough guys that they can really retool a roster, especially with who is still in place there. So Svechkov can be one of those guys, and I think that as he continues to progress over there in Russia, I think he's going to be a player who ends up being a key part of their retool and a key part of how they continue to stay competitive in this Central Division going forward.
Yeah, I misspoke. I jumped ahead. Brad Lambert's Winnipeg Jets prospect, not the Nashville Predators prospect. So I'll move what I said. Winnipeg Jets drafted a couple really good guys in the past. I mean, Nashville did too.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So Peter, who do you have for the Winnipeg Jets? And Brad Lambert sent to the AHL instead of to the juniors. So who do you have for the Jets coming up this season?
Yeah, as good of a camp that Lambert had to try and put, those doubts to rest about his, work ethic and off the puck play. Obviously, he still needs to develop, but he looked great in the preseason. But I'm going with the best name in that draft, Rucker McGroarty. I mean, I've been a big fan of him. And when I talked to him at the combine, he just oozes personality. He's a guy that loves to be personal, be open about everything. And he was very relatable with everything that he said. He was very, his answers were very well spoken, but his overall play as a leader on and off the ice, it just stands out. This is a guy that can just do it all. He's got a powerful and booming shot. And how the Winnipeg Jets already have that with Kyle Connor, Chaz Lucius already in the system. And now you add Rucker McGroarty to the, that list of talented, sharpshooters that this team desperately wants. It's just been absolutely phenomenal to watch him play and develop all last season. And, probably going to take another big step forward this season. I took note of him, or more so that I thought that he's definitely going to be a top 15, top 20 player since that U18 tournament. And, already with the University of Michigan, stacked team, we already know that, already has 1 assist. So, he's already point per game. I know it's a little bit early, but, be on the lookout for him, because this is a guy that's going to do some damage, and he's going to take the NCAA by storm as a freshman. So watch out for him.
Yeah, another guy going to the University of Michigan.
Yeah. Yep.
That team just
as much as everybody else.
Just keeps getting better every season. Or replenishing when they lose guys. It just doesn't seem to stop. So McGroarty, I love that guy too. I mean, I was talking about him being in the top 10, top 15 at points last season. So, Winnipeg getting him where they did, that's really good to get him there. So yeah, watch out for him because he's going to be exciting to watch in the NHL when he does get here. All right, Devin, we're going to one of the first of the two teams that are probably going to be in the running for Connor Bedard this season. So the Chicago Blackhawks, who do you have as, they're going to get a lot of chances for prospects to play this season?
Yeah, for sure. And the player I'm going to highlight is a little surprising because when he was drafted, the story was, oh, he gets to join his brother in Chicago, but now he's the lone Doc in Chicago. I'm talking, of course, about Colton Doc, brother of Kirby Doc, who is now a Montreal Canadian. And Colton and Kirby, go figure, but they play somewhat similarly. Like they have a similar style. I think they both, they're both willing to go to those the dirty areas of the ice. They both can play that gritty game. The key difference was that Kirby has sky high skill, and Colton, well, he still has plenty of skill. It's just on a different level, and watching him a little bit in preseason play. He's a player who seriously looks like he's made some progress since his draft year, and that's what you want to see out of a second round pick, right? Colton is he's a big player. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. That's a player with an NHL frame, if I've ever seen one. That's a player who has a long reach. Should be able to fend off defenders. As he continues to get stronger and continues to learn how to attack in the offensive zone at the pro level. And he's supposed to, at least he should be playing in the AHL this year. So now the real, tough development years begin for him. And I think that he has a real shot at becoming something for the Chicago Blackhawks. I don't want to put I don't want to predict what he's going to be, because honestly, I think it could be a lot of things. Because he does have some intriguing skills, but I also, he wasn't picked third overall like his brother for a reason. He's got a really good shot. I think he needs to learn how to utilize it more efficiently at the pro level. I still think he's still kind of learning how to play at pro speed, but I do think that there's a lot of good foundation. Like his game is in a really good place, and I think he's got the foundations of a really solid hockey player that maybe could end up being a really solid bottom six guy for them. And like you say, this is going to be a team who's in the Bedard sweepstakes this year. So as many, obviously they need as many top tier prospects like Bedard as possible. Every team does. They also need a lot of prospects that can start to come up and fill roles, because let's face it, once they do, because assuming they are going to do this, once they move on from Taves and Kane, there's really not a whole lot there. So this is going to be a from the ground up rebuild, and they need guys like Colton Doc to come up and fill roles eventually. Not like this year or anything, but at some point they need these guys to become NHL players. Otherwise, the rebuild is going to take a lot longer than the 5 years that Kyle Davidson's talking about.
Yeah, he was just sent back to the Kelowna Rockets, so he was one of the last cuts for the team. So for one preseason game because of an injury earlier on, so didn't get as much time as probably everyone kind of hoped to see him, but looked good in that game, thanks to Brooke Laferno, who covers the Chicago Blackhawks at the Hockey Writers here. That's why I know. So read her article on the site. So she does a really good job of going over how he played in that game. So take a look at that when you get a chance. All right, Peter, let's go to the team that is pretty much the team that everyone kind of thinks will win this Connor Bedard sweepstakes, but you never know. And everyone didn't think Montreal was going to be at that point. Yeah. So Arizona Coyotes, who do you have as someone that should be, one could keeping an eye on?
Yeah, this one was really difficult because, they got a lot of top tier talent right now. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint one underrated name, but I'm still going to go with this. And I'm glad that he was taken in that second round, is Julian Lutz. I really think that, he had a really rough season in his draft year. I mean, injuries for like a majority of time, came back, dealt with some more injuries, and then really shined at the World Junior or World U18s. I believe he had 2 goals for Germany. I'm going to try and pull out the stats here. I'm having a hard time with that. Yeah, so he did really have a really great performance. I'm having a hard time with the stats right now for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, he was displaying that speed, that power forward like game that really captivated a lot of people before the season started. I mean, he's got great puck protection skills, can come out to the middle of the ice, and he can just rip it as with some of the best of them from that draft class. He knows how to create space for himself and his teammates. He just absolutely reads the game very well. And I would have probably had him in that upper echelon where he's like early second, late first, but because of the injuries, you didn't know what. But I still had him as a possible second. I'm going to have to go back and check where I had him. But, I'm glad that the Coyotes took a flyer on him because he's definitely a prospect, has a lot of upside. And if he develops properly, there's a winger that could do a lot of damage for you.
He looked really good in the World Juniors. I really liked him there. So, I mean, Germany as a whole team wasn't that
the
good.
World Hockey, the U18 championships.
U18s, I mean. Yeah. So U18s, he looked really good for a team that, didn't have a lot of high-end prospects, but played really well. So, Arizona could have a bit of a steal there where they got him for sure. All right. Well, we asked this question for all the divisions, and this is going to encompass all the high-end prospects in this division. So, Devin, we'll start with you. Who do you kind of feel will have the biggest performance from this division this year?
My answer for this is going to be Marco Rossi from the Minnesota Wild. I believe, I've said plenty of times before on the show that Matty Beniers is my pick for the Calder Trophy this year. But I seriously think Marco Rossi might give him a run for his money this year. I think he's set up for a big year playing with the talent that is on the Minnesota Wild's team. And that's a team that, if you ask a Minnesota Wild fan, they would tell you that they have one. But in my humble opinion, they don't have a 1C. And I think Marco Rossi has the potential to be that 1C. And I think that he could start to really show it this year. So I think Marco Rossi is going to have a big old year for the Minnesota Wild this year.
Yeah, Marco Rossi, he's going to be really good. He's been really good in the preseason. Playing on the top line at times, probably won't stay there. He's probably going to play further down the lineup, but you never know what will happen.
Work his way up.
So yeah, that's great. All right, Peter, who do you have? Is it Rossi, or do you have someone else that you think will have a bigger season?
One, I had Lutz 41st on my final ranking, so 2 spots from the Arizona Coyotes. Now, to get back to the actual question that matters. I would like to say Rossi, but I'm going to be different. I think he is going to have a phenomenal season. I mean, showing that right now, but I'm going to say Cole Perfetti for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
I think with all the names that are up this year, I think he's one that really is flying under the radar because you always are drawn to Matty Beniers, to Marco Rossi, Quinton Byfield. I'm pretty sure he's not qualified for the so never mind Quinton Byfield, as much as I love him. But I think that last season was, the step that Perfetti needed to take, just under a point per game in the AHL, got his NHL look with 7 points in 18 games. And now he's just looking like he's taking another step forward in his game. And he's just such a very confident and crafty playmaker. Like, he's just got great hands, the awareness to create space for himself and draw in players to open the game up for everybody else. It's absolutely fantastic what he's able to do. And even though he's 5'11", he's still 5'11", 176, according to Elite Prospects. He doesn't let that, that size factor get the best of him. He doesn't have as much muscle as some other players, but he is definitely confident with his mobility, his movement, his edge work. He's elusive, and that's what makes him very, very special. And the way that he's playing right now in the preseason, don't count out Perfetti from, having a big rookie season, because he's going to be maybe top 5, top 3, who knows, but I'm expecting a big season from him.
Yeah, he's a guy that, you lost in the shuffle when you have all the Matty Beniers, Owen Power, guys like that in here. So, Marco Rossi, I really like him too. I think, like I say, if he gets to play in the top 6 on the power play, I think he's going to be really good and get up there in that rankings too. And playing with a guy could potentially play with a guy like Matt Boldy too. So that's going to be interesting to watch. And same thing with Perfetti. I don't know how it's going to be with new coaching staff and all that, or how they're going to play, but Seems like it's going to be a very high, pace type team. So we'll see what that all kind of plays out this season. So for me, I think it's probably, I really am drawn to Rossi. I've been for a long time. So I'm hoping he does have a really big season. So keep an eye on him. All right. Well, that's the Central Division, and that wraps up our divisions for the underrated prospects. And next week, we're going to start doing a ranking. We're actually going to rank the best prospects from these divisions. We'll probably do 2 in the episode, but we're going to run through just a quick rankings. And this gets people's blood boiling on who is first, who is second, that type of thing. So we're going to do some rankings. So we're going to have some fun with that starting next week. So keep an eye out next week. But let's get to our quick fire round, and I'm back in the driver's seat. So let's get going with the first question. And Devin, we're going to start with you on this one. Who has the better chance at the Calder Trophy? Marco Rossi, or we just talked with these two guys. So Marco Rossi or Cole Perfetti? These two, like we just kind of detailed. Who do you think would have the better chance if it was those two guys in the running?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick to my guns here and say Marco Rossi.
Yeah, I think he probably will have a better chance, with the higher end guys than Perfetti, but we'll have to see. All right, Peter, who do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close, but I'm giving the edge to Marco Rossi. I think he's going to have an outstanding season.
Yeah, and like I say, I really think he may actually end up being in that top line. I mean, I don't know. Like Hartman had a really good year last year, but if he falters, there's some other guys kind of that are going to be, especially Rossi's already shown a bit of that guy, and be able to play with those guys. I don't think they're going to hesitate to put him there for sure. All right, Peter, we're going to start with you on this one. We're sticking with the Minnesota Wild. Who will get more starts in the NHL this season? Sebastian Cossa or Jesper Wallstad? Because they're both in the AHL now. Cossa was just sent down.
That's a tough one because they got not necessarily an uphill battle to climb, but they got goalies in front of them that they still got to develop. They still got to try and get more opportunity, not necessarily opportunities, but they need to still develop because they're not necessarily well set, but Cossa needs to work on his game a little bit because there's some shaky aspects to that. I'm gonna say neither. I think I think maybe Wallstad at one point over Cossa, but I think right now with the goaltending depth that the Minnesota Wild have, maybe emergency call up, but I want to say neither. But if I have to pick, maybe Wallstad.
Taking the easy way out.
Yeah, I have to. Well, that was tough.
Gustafson's looked really good in the preseason, so. May not have to turn to Wallstad. Wallstad looked really good in the preseason, whatever he got. That game he looked really good too. So we'll also have to wait and see. Devin, are you going with your guy Cossa? Do you think he'll get some starts in the NHL this season, or do you think Wallstad?
I think that Wallstad has a clearer path to NHL starts this season. So I'm going to say he does. And that's not necessarily a slight against Cossa. It's just like I said, I think that if Gustafson goes down or Fleury goes down, I think Wallstad's the one who gets the call up. Whereas I don't know that that's Cossa in Detroit.
Yeah, because they do have another third string to go to first. Yeah, that's true. And the thing is, you really don't want, if Kossa's starting in Detroit, you've got some problems. So
yeah, absolutely.
Probably the same thing with Minnesota because you don't really want some injuries happening where your rookie goaltender has to go in. Okay, Devin, back to you. And this I mentioned him briefly. With Brad Lambert in the AHL now, predict how many goals he will get there. And do you think he makes his NHL debut this season?
I'll say that he will make his NHL debut. I won't say how many games, but I think that he'll get a look at the very least. As for how many goals, it's at the AHL, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I will say low 20s. I'll say like 21, 22, something like that.
That would be a pretty solid season for his first
season
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Peter, what do you think? Does he make his NHL debut? And how many goals does he get in the AHL this season?
I think he'll make his debut in the sense that maybe if there's a injury, maybe he'll be the first one to be called up. In terms of production, yeah, I think he maybe just falls at the 20 goal mark, maybe 18, 19, I would say. And maybe he has, respectable production, maybe just, under or over 40 points.
Nice rookie season for sure. That'd be great for him because he's had some problems the last few years with production and getting involved in, any of the leagues that he's been in hasn't been that productive. So being the AHL, getting that many points in his first season, that would look pretty good on his resume for sure. So it was great to see him perform in the preseason because he didn't have a very good World Juniors and before that. So it's great to see him actually doing something for sure. All right, question number 4, back to you, Peter, on this. And this is to the Dallas Stars. Who will make the opening night roster? These guys are still in flux. Logan Stankoven or Maverick Bourque?
Giving me the hard ones. You know what? Maverick Bourque is going to be the easy answer. I'm gonna say Logan Stankoven. I'm gonna say maybe he does be that underrated or not underrated, but a very surprising pick to come out and just make the team out of camp. Obviously, still in flux, like you said, but if I had to pick one, I think I like the upside that Stankoven has. I think maybe with Bourque, I think Bourque is a centerman, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think they have more need on the wing for someone that's more quick than they do up the middle. But then again, I could be wrong. So I don't know. I think they could just use a jolt of energy on the wing with Logan Stankoven, and he looked very fantastic throughout the WHL World Juniors. So I'm gonna say Logan.
He's also looked good in the preseason too. I believe I saw a lineup and he was playing on the top line. So yeah, we'll see. All right, Devin, who do you have making the roster first out of those two guys?
It's Bourque and Stankoven, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Stankoven. I think that I don't know. I just think I'm pretty sure it was you, Matt, who said this before. I think Stankoven has the potential to be something special.
Oh yeah.
And Bourque, I think he has the potential to be a really good player, but that's different than being special. So I think Stankoven, for sure, Stankoven over Bourque in this situation.
Yeah. Would have been a little bit different if Jason Robertson wasn't going to be in the lineup to start the season, but so that kind of throws a wrench in it. But there's quite a few players they're trying to choose from to make the roster, so it's going to be interesting to see who they go with to start the season. I still think Stankoven's making it. He'll play the 9 games, and I think he'll be back to junior. But you never know what he does in those 9, and if they think he's worth keeping around, they'll probably keep him around. So we'll just have to see. That's going to be an interesting story to follow. All right, final question, and this one could be easy. It may not be. I mean, these two teams. But who did I start with before? So I started with you, Peter. So Devin, who will end up with the best chance for Connor Bedard? Blackhawks or the Coyotes?
Oh, I love this question. I'm gonna say the Coyotes. And the reason why is because they don't have anybody on that team like Patrick Kane. So and I mean, Chicago's probably going to move him at some point, but they have him right now, and you can't stop Patrick Kane from being Patrick Kane. So I'm going to say the Coyotes.
Yeah, so even with Taves, I mean, you got 2 really good players still on the team that are probably going to be scoring goals that may make you win games that you probably don't want to win. But
even
Peter,
Seth Jones,
they have pretty good defense too. So. All right, Peter, who do you think has a better chance? Is it the Coyotes or Blackhawks going to be?
I'm going to say the Chicago Blackhawks, and mainly because you look at their goaltending, Alex Stalock and Peter Mrazek. And I know preseason isn't everything, but in their last preseason game, Blues won 6-0, and Peter Mrazek allowed 6 goals and had a .760 save percentage. When you have results like that, chances are you're going to be losing a lot of games. And look, I'm saying from firsthand, Peter Mrazek did not hold up his end of the bargain, did not play well for the Maple Leafs in the backup role last season. So glad they were able to move on that contract, but yeah, it's going to be pretty tough season for Chicago Blackhawks fans if you're going to see those kind of games, because it's not going to be fun.
No, I don't think it's gonna be fun for both those teams throughout the season. That going off of the Canucks game against the Coyotes, the Coyotes only had 7 shots on goal and they had a lot of their lineup. So yeah, Demko was just kind of hanging out in his crease for most of the game. So
7 shots, right?
Yeah,
I will say that the Coyotes, they'll lose games, but they're going to be low scoring games. Chicago, they're going to lose games, but they're going to be
that's
some
true.
big blowouts. Yeah.
Pamelka's looked pretty good, you know, most of the time. So he may be keeping the goals down for sure. All right. Well, there's another quick fire. Made you guys kind of think on a few of those, but some were easier than others. Yeah, there's another quick fire in the books, and it's over to Devin next week. We'll see. We may have some questions from, you know, once the season goes on, we're gonna have some more subjects to kind of talk about. So that's going to be fun to get going for another week. But before we end the show, we got to do our prospects of the week like we always do on the show. And we'll start with you, Devin. Who is your prospect of the week?
Well, he was already brought up in one of those quick fire questions, but I have to give props to the big man, Sebastian Cossa, who is officially going pro. It was announced today that he was assigned to the Grand Rapids Griffins of the AHL. So yes, he is going pro. He's not going back to juniors. You know, like I said before with whoever else, now the real development begins, right? And it's going to be interesting because if nothing else changes, it sounds like Grand Rapids is going to have 3 goalies on hand. So it's going to be interesting to see how they you know, cycle them around, because I have to imagine that Detroit's putting Cossa in a place where they expect he's going to play, right? You don't want him sitting on the bench. So I think that I know I'm really interested to see, ever since that was announced, I'm really interested to see who starts game 1 for the Griffins, opening night, of course. Because like I said, it's not just Cossa there. There's a couple other guys who can hold their own and increase. So good on Cossa for earning this opportunity. He said he told the media, I think it was after the prospect tournament, that he spent most of the summer in Detroit working with the coaches, working with you know, facing NHL players and, you know, practicing with each other. So he was putting in the work. He wanted to take his game to another level. And if he is able to secure some like legitimate playing time with the Griffins, that Griffins team is going to be filled with a lot of talent and could be a lot of fun to watch this season. And Cossa is coming from a team just this past season that he won a WHL championship with that had a lot of talent on it. And he just kind of had to make the save seat that, you know, you need him to make, that were, you know, are expected of him. So if he can be in a situation like that in Grand Rapids, he could be in line for a really successful year this year. So kudos to him for earning this opportunity. But now you got to keep working, you know, keep climbing the ladder, because the hard part has only just begun.
Yeah, well, it looks like he manifested it with those pads that he got.
Yes,
so.
yes.
He wanted to be somewhere where he could use them. So it looks like that's where he's going. All right, Peter, who do you have as a prospect of the week?
Following the same path as Devin, you know, picking a Detroit Red Wing prospect, I'm going to pick a Maple Leaf prospect, someone who's been, you know, eyeing a possible top 6 spot, and that's Nick Robertson. Just absolutely fantastic preseason. I mean, up and down Traverse City tournament, comes into camp looking to make a statement, and he did. Obviously, he's got a fantastic shot. He's got great speed. The main thing for him is can he stay healthy? And he was able to stay healthy. Obviously, you know, minimal games, but let's hope that he can stay healthy from here on out, because he didn't suit up in the Maple Leafs final preseason game, which could be a good sign that he made the roster. So he's worked hard for this moment. He's dealt with injuries in the past and adversity. I think now this is his moment, and getting 8 points in about 5 games during the preseason is a great way to showcase and tell, you know, the coaching staff and general managers that I'm not going back down. I'm staying here. And kind of like Sebastian Cossa, this is your moment. You made the team. You played your heart out to try and earn that spot. now it's time to continue that progress, try and continue that development at this level, because he's a potential top 6 forward on this team. And now he's got to continue to show it, because playing alongside, I mean, in the meantime, until he returns, John Tavares and William Nylander as that possible second line, I think they're going to find that great balance. And now that he's found that, ability to get in on the forecheck and improve his defensive game, I think he's going to provide a really steady balance on that second line right now. So congrats to him, and hope that this is a great sign moving forward.
Yeah, well, we've talked about him quite a bit on this show. So it's great that he's actually, he's going to looks like he's going to make the team.
Yeah.
And have a really big role. So it's going to be fun to see if he can keep that. Like, again, we talk about on the, the previous show about consistent. He has to be a consistent presence in that top 6. So we'll see if he can do it. But congrats on what he's done the preseason so far for sure. Well, continuing on the vein of players, kind of moving up and having good preseasons is Canucks prospect Nils Aman, who they signed in the offseason as a guy that everyone kind of thought, depth for the AHL team, depth for the prospect pool, and everyone wasn't even sure he was going to even come over to North America, but he did, and he's had a really good preseason. He's played quite a few of the games, has basically forced, and this is my opinion. I haven't, I don't have any inside information, but that forced this Jason Dickinson trade that the Canucks just made. I mean, they wanted to get rid of salary and all that, but to get rid of a bottom 6 guy that can, kill penalties and stuff like that, you have to have someone that you would think would be able to replace it. So Nils Aman is a guy that they apparently think he's going to be able to do this. And it's a big guy. He's like 6'2". He's is that type of, power. I'm not being a power forward, but really good down low, great defensively, great 2-way player. Very quietly had a really good training camp. He didn't score any goals. He didn't, light up the scoreboard or any means, but very good defensively, was put in a penalty killing role, really good on a 4th line with Dakota Joshua and Curtis Lazar, and played center and, kind of flip-flop center and wing. But this is a guy that 22 years old, wasn't signed by the Colorado Avalanche, who drafted him in the 6th round, and ending up probably going to make the team and make his NHL debut on Wednesday. So, for a guy that everyone kind of thought was just going to be in the AHL, and he's going to be in the NHL, looks like. So congrats to him, and it's going to be fun to see what he can do in the regular season, because I really kind of connected. He doesn't have the speed of this guy, but Tyler Mott type player where, he just works hard and, fills a lot of roles that, like I say, not a flashy player, but he's going to do what he can, his job. And I'm really excited to see what he can do on the 4th line on the Canucks. And I love surprises at training camp where you're not expecting this guy to do something, and he does. So keep an eye on Aman this year, and hopefully he can, solidify a spot in the NHL, just like Mott did when he came over to the Canucks. Played 74 games that year that everyone thought he was just going to be potentially not on the team. So keep an eye on him for sure. All right, guys, there's another show in the books, and our next show will be in the midst of the NHL regular season. So we're going to have games going on. Like I say, the junior leagues have kind of started up already, but everything's going to be in full swing. We got NCAA games that started this past weekend. We got some going on already. So there's going to be a lot more content that we're going to be able to talk about. So thanks, Devin and Peter, for another great discussion of prospects. And make sure you're checking out all of our, all the work at thehockeywriters.com of any prospect coverage we are going to have throughout the season. I'll have my usual prospect report for the Canucks coming out. I'm probably going to be firing up the prospect news and rumors column as well throughout the season. So keep an eye on that for news and stuff about prospects throughout the NHL. So thanks everyone for joining us for another edition of the Prospect Corner. From Devin and Peter, this is Matthew Zator, and we will see you next time.